Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. I'm running back and forth on different tasks, but I always like being here for the training. It's super exciting, especially with a lot of the changes that happen out there. Give me 2 seconds. I just got to pull up my LinkedIn just to make sure I'm looking online. I just like to make sure I'm actually live in there throughout the time. 2 seconds. Hey, Gene Austin, thanks for showing up and engaging on the chat. If you haven't done so already, put your company name in and your core competency. Let me know who's here. And by the way, I do these trainings pretty much every single day live. And so if you ever have topics, let me know. I haven't picked next week's topics yet, but they're probably going to be around SAM.gov and how to use SAM now that FPDS is gone. But we'll get rocking and rolling on today's training. Let me turn some of these captions off. I think we're good to go. Okay, I want to talk about, hey, how come my slides aren't there? Hold on 1 second. Let me put that there. Let me check my, it's funny, I don't know how to do it. Well, we'll do it together. Welcome to live TV. Let me see why my presentation's not there. I'm curious on what you're able to see also. Let me go ahead and just remove that guy. I upload my slides so that I can walk through a few slides. If you want to take notes, you can. Hey, come on. Let me remove this guy. I don't always have technical difficulties, but when I do, they're impressive. Okay, so I'm choosing my slide deck. I'm clicking play. Well, okay, so I can't upload the slide deck. Let me see if I can share my screen. Actually, you know what? Because I want to go into FPDS, I think I'll go without slides. So let me go here. Change that. Hopefully this is, excuse me, coming back good. Okay, so I had slides. They're not there. I've got them in the background, so I'll read to them, but you won't see them. So you get to see more of me today. But I am going to go into actually USA spending and do some live demo for you in today's training. So we're going to be talking about the easiest contracts to win for 8As in particular. So you can always take my training when I say for 8As and try to adjust it a little bit for like woman-owned small business, because really just take out one certification or set aside and replace it with yours. But in the federal market, if you want to win more government contractors or government contracts, then you want to do what winners are doing. Winners plan 6 to 24 months out. We look way out for our sales success, and we give ourselves that sales life cycle of 6 to 24 months that aligns with the federal buying life cycle, or what they call the acquisition life cycle. And so this is really important. Now, this is about winning prime contracts. So you're looking 6 to 24 months out, and you're building a pipeline of opportunities you want to pursue. But those are prime contracts. If you're earlier and you're really trying to get your initial revenue, et cetera, you want to be doing subcontracting under small businesses. And that path is faster to revenue because really it's about relationship building and getting in with some existing contractors. But today I want to be talking about prime contracts and how you can be identifying better ones to increase your chances of success for winning. And then also to help you understand this idea of a sales life cycle is 6 to 24 months in the federal market. I'm going to break up today's training into 3 main sections for why most 8A firms miss government 8A contracts until it's too late. So the first thing I want to talk about is just what agencies are awarding 8A contracts the most. It's really important to understand that, so you're putting your energy towards the agencies or the buyers that like you and like your type of business. Second thing I want to talk about is why I say that RFIs and RFPs are too late. Doesn't mean you can't go after them. I certainly go after them, but they're too late for an ideal sales pipeline or sales strategy for what I want to be doing over 2026 and 2027. And then the last thing I'm going to wrap up with is how to avoid being too late. What can you do to make sure you're not seeing opportunities too late? If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonald. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. And this is what I want for you. It's why I come back over and over again. If you haven't already followed me on LinkedIn, make sure you follow me on LinkedIn. I try to put out content that is constantly good and tactical advice for government contractors. The other thing is, if you haven't subscribed to my government contracting success newsletter on LinkedIn, subscribe to it. It's the largest government contracting newsletter on LinkedIn. And I believe the reason it continues to grow at the pace it grows is because there's no fluff in there, right? I really try to give you tactical guidance in the newsletter or actionable guidance that you can turn around after reading it and do something with it. I have training tomorrow and the next day that I'm planning out. Usually I plan out a whole week, but there's so many changes going on that I might pause on 2 trainings I had planned. And tomorrow, if you're interested in this, fpds.gov just stopped being functional yesterday. That was a planned switchover, so FPDS is no longer in existence. And the tool you should be using is sam.gov. So I want to show people how sam.gov has the data that FPDS does. It's not as easy at all to access it, but I'm going to walk you through some of that tomorrow. And I just want to get you started in feeling comfortable with using SAM. And so that's tomorrow's training. Watch for an announcement from me on that. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is which agencies are awarding 8A contracts the most. And I'm going to show you this in 1 second on USA Spending. I thought we'd go look at a live view on the actual data source and or a view into the data, right? The actual data source is now SAM, but I'm going to show you in USA Spending because it's easier. You don't have to log in. But right now, there's, just for perspective, there were 4,507 new contracts awarded to 8A companies in 2025, set aside, not to just randomly to an 8A who won it full and open, but 4,507 8A set aside new contracts. And so what I mean when I say new is not recompetes, not optioneers, or excuse me, not optioneers. That's what I mean. So these are new contracts that are awarded in FY 2025. So there was a lot of traction out there. And if you've watched my previous training, there are, I think there's like 1,900, I might say this in a minute, but there's 1,900 expiring 8A contracts in 2026. And so those are a lot of different activity on 8A contracts that are out there. And I want you to hear about them earlier, not later. And so let's go ahead. Let me see if I can get this guy working. If you're just showing up, my slides aren't working. Blame it on the technology, darn internet. Okay, so I'm going to go into USA Spending. I don't know what level you're at on USA Spending, but there's 3 core tools that are really, really helpful out there. Used to be, right? FPDS, which was the source of the contract award data. USA Spending, which is basically just a user interface into the data sources that are out there in the government. And then SAM.gov, which is basically the new direction the government wants to consolidate everything in there. It'd actually be good if they could just consolidate the functionality of USA Spending into SAM, but without login. Don't make me log in to see everything. Okay, so I'm on USA Spending. I just want to take a minute and show you which agencies love 8A small businesses. And so I'm going to show you very quickly how I do a search. Hey, hold on. I have a touch screen and I touched it in a way that went back. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I'm just walking through. Some of you might be really familiar with this, but 2025. So I'm saying, hey, show me 2025. Then as I come down, I say, show new awards only. And by the way, what makes me an expert is I hover above a lot of things like this letter I. This letter I is giving me guidance. And I learned this a long, long time ago, right? But I hovered above it. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, so I really do only want to see new awards. I don't want to see the optioneers. And you can do that on a lot of different fields. So if you feel like you don't know the tools, SAM or USA Spending, they do a pretty good job at trying to give you guidance documents and little pop-ups like that I. That's good development there, actually, when you have some pop-up information. Anyways, sidetrack there. And then the only other thing I wanted to pay attention to at the moment was coming down here to type of set aside. And the type of set aside I want is 8A. So that's what we're looking at. Do me a favor, because I'm pausing a little bit. Somebody throw into the chat that, yes, you can see my screen with USA spending. Okay, so I'm coming down here looking only at 8A set asides. And that's it. So now let me scroll back out here. Come over here, and I'm just going to hit submit. And now you can see the search up here. It's fiscal year 2025, 8A sole source with a hub zone preference or competed. And right there, you can see the 4,507 contracts. There's a lot of contract vehicle activity as well. I'm not paying attention to that because that's not money. So it's the chance to play with money, but it's not money. So as I come down, and if you haven't seen USA spending, I can come down here. Oh, come on. USA spending is having problems. Ironically, the day after they close FPDS, which is always pretty reliable, USA spending is having its challenges. Right here, if you saw this graph, and maybe I'll change it in a second here, but if you saw this graph, you would see DoD is by far the biggest. The challenge is, okay, so the data is kind of coming up. Let me look at my chat really quick just to make sure I'm seeing what I'm seeing. Yes, you can see. Perfect. Well, so congratulations. I've done this before where I talk about what are the top firms. Actually, let me see if I can find it really quick. govconchamber.com/8A. No, not 8A expiring contracts. Yes, go take a look at that, but that's not what I wanted to show you. In here, let me just see if I have it easily to pop up. So like right here, I say which agencies love 8As. This is a little bit later or farther back, but it's the same thing. You can come in here and see the Army's in there, the Air Force, the Navy. And this is really important for you to use tools like USA Spending because you start seeing, if I'm an 8A firm, then I want to be looking somewhere where there's a lot of contract dollars being awarded to 8A firms, and there's a lot of contract opportunities. And so you can come to this website here. It's my website, govconchamber.com/8A. And it's where I put a lot of past training. Or to be candid, my sister Cecilia is the one who took it all and built this great website or the page. But you can have access to it. This guy here, I'm not sure why USA spending's down. I can't really do anything about it. I'm going to hit refresh and I'll watch. And if it comes back, I'll come back to it. But the reason I took you into USA Spending is that you can go into USA Spending and see which agencies are awarding contracts out there. And if you had looked at that real-time data from FY 2025, you would see those contracts that I talked about a minute ago, 4,507 contracts in 2025. You would see that those are broken up, obviously with DoD like I talked about, but then you can see the other agencies and see which ones fit with what you're doing. The next thing I want to talk to you about, and again, if you're showing up a little late, my slides are down, so sorry about that. But why I say RFIs and RFPs are too late. I think that, of course, you can go after an opportunity that is perfect for your company if the first time you see it is in SAM at the RFP stage. I'm totally okay with that. If it's a slam dunk for your company, sure, you'll be behind other companies that have been looking at it a lot longer, but it's still your slam dunk opportunity, right? My last company, I did Microsoft SharePoint. If I saw a SharePoint opportunity that dropped that I hadn't been tracking on, I definitely would be seriously consider going after it. I don't know why I wouldn't, because I can write a proposal inside of less than a day when it's my core competency, like a 20 or 30 page proposal, because when you only focus on your core competencies. So anyways, I'm saying RFIs and RFPs are too late, but I'm saying that as it relates to sales, momentum, et cetera, not to just be a hard rule saying don't go after RFPs or don't go after RFIs. I love those. They're just later than they should be. For example, RFPs, they don't allow you any dialogue with the buyer. When an RFP drops, as great as it is for me, I can't do any due diligence. I can't talk to the program office or the contracting shop, et cetera, to learn anything more about the opportunity. Whatever is in SAM at that point is basically all I get. right? I could do some internet searches or something. But when an RFP, a request for proposal, drops, it's way, way late in the process. And so it doesn't give you any ability to understand the opportunity further or the customer further. The second one, RFIs. RFIs increase the competitors' awareness. So if you get in early on, there's no competitors, and I'll talk about that in a minute, or very little competitors. But when the RFI drops, and the government, if they're doing their job, they're pushing out the RFIs purposely to try to engage industry and do market research. And so now the number of people who are aware of that opportunity significantly goes up. People who've got RFI alerts, or they're paying for some web-based tools that alert them to opportunities that are coming out. They're all tracking RFIs. And so they pop up, they look at it and go, oh, I think I'll go after that. Well, darn it, now your competition has increased. And so again, it's not the end of the world to go after that. I won a ton of business going after RFIs, but that's not the best place to be looking at opportunities and why they're too late. When you look at RFIs and RFPs, the reason I say it's too late is because you haven't got a chance to get in and truly influence the buyer, to get in and give the buyer, like the program office, the ideas that are out there, to have engagement with them, maybe send white papers and videos. When you get to the RFI stage, you can do some of that, but it begins to limit because of the time that's compressed, or sometimes, frankly, some federal buyers, contracting officers included, just have no understanding that the market research phase of their acquisition lifecycle is to engage industry, and sometimes they just block us out. You can't do anything about it. They've been doing that forever, and it's just them not knowing their job, or them using it as an excuse, in my opinion, to not engage industry. Those are all signs to us as companies to watch out for that. Let me just look really quick before I switch to see if that agency thing popped up. Agency, no. Come on, USA Spending. FPDS just went down. I was totally depending on USA Spending being the next good interface. Okay, so that's why I'm saying RFIs and RFPs are too late, because you don't get a chance to influence the buyer as much, and the number of competitors who are aware of this opportunity and start trying to make phone calls into the government buyer or the program office or the contracting office, right? The number of people who are trying to do that significantly increases. And so what can you do? What I would recommend you do is avoid being late to the party. I've done multiple trainings on this, various angles of it, even this week, but I've done 100 trainings at least on this in the last couple of years, where I talk about the earlier you can identify a good opportunity for you and get it in the pipeline and start doing capture, which means understanding that requirement more and understanding the customer more, engaging the customer more. The more you do that, the stronger your position is when you're trying to do capture and write a proposal. And so, you want to avoid being late by getting started long before the RFI drops. If you looked right now inside of SAM, you would see less than 100 opportunities that are set aside for 8A firms. In fact, let me go see if I can do that live at sam.gov. Come on, Sam, stay up. By the way, if you haven't seen it, DataBank, the DataBank is basically where the FPDS is now. For those of you tracking on FPDS is no longer active as a tool, SAM has had this data, and the data has been moved over. Now they just finally moved the interface over as well, or blocked off one of the older interfaces. But right here is contract data, and you can build reports, et cetera. That's not today's training, but you do have access to it right there. So go in there and start learning from Sam on how you can use the tool. If I come over here, though, what I was doing was saying, let me come up, contracting opportunities. And here I'm just saying, I'm looking for type of set aside, and I want it to be 8A sole source or 8A set aside. Basically, that's it. And so if I look at that and I say response date is due, I don't know, let's say next 3 months to see. So next 3 months, 54 opportunities in the next 3 months. This idea of, and actually, let me just see, I haven't done this before, but next year. So for the next year, it's 58. So for the next 12 months, there's 58 8A set-aside opportunities that are out there. And that's a small portion of what's available. Oh, sorry, I didn't switch over. let me show you this really quick. It's funny, I don't use live sharing. Usually I just do slides and get done with it. This is what I was trying to show you, is that if you look at the next year, there's 58 opportunities that are set aside to 8A sole source or 8A set aside. That means it's purposely being considered for 8A companies. Really quickly, what I said and wasn't showing you is FPDS data is now available in the data bank. It's actually been here for a long time, but it's right here, and you can come to data bank and begin to explore this. There's a lot of good training in here about how to use this tool. Okay, so I said that there was 58 opportunities out there, less than 100 opportunities that are in SAM at any given point. And so if you're trying to go after 8A opportunities, that's such a small pool to go after. But expiring, which I can't show you at the moment, but I showed you yesterday. So if you were watching that training, there's 2,937 expiring contracts in 2026, 3,000 expiring contracts for 2026. That's huge. And for 2027, there's 1,530. So between the two of them, there's 4,497 expiring contracts in the next 2 years, between now and the end of 2027. That's huge. When you go in there and look at it, you're able to start finding opportunities. Somebody who engaged with one of my posts yesterday, they were like, "Oh, I hope there's something in there for what we do." And I had noticed in their headline they do janitorial and facility support services. And I just came back and I said, "Look, there's 182 expiring contracts for facility support, and there was like 110 or 15 or something for facilities or for janitorial services." And the idea is, you go in and you look at 4,000 contracts and you shrink that down into the 20 that go in your pipeline. And you go, these are perfect for us. Well, those are the ideal opportunities to be going after to lengthen your sales life cycle. So if you look at opportunities that are expiring in the end of 2026, for example, and you put them in the pipeline and you start reaching out, then you're going to be able to really understand a lot more about it, influence it. If it was 8A sole source, you might be able to get them to either, they might not sole source it to you, but they can push it to 8A competitive, especially if you get a couple of other companies to respond to the KO or the contracting officer and tell them you want to go after that. I talk about a 3-step system, and really right now, if you're here and you're a fan of mine, right, not if you're new, but go check out govcon123.com. It's a rebrand of Call Plan AI. It's where I'm trying to put my information. But the reason I like GovCon123 is I want to get very good at my tips and my tactical guidance for you to be something as simple as 1, 2, 3, right? If you just do this, it's 1, 2, 3. In this particular case, the reason I was saying that is that the 1, 2, 3s are identify slam dunk contract opportunities, right? And so I have this product that has all 4,497 expiring 8A contracts in it. You can find this data in SAM now. I got it from FPDS and did some fancy stuff with it, but I can look through there. And like I said, I'm looking for those 20 slam dunk opportunities. They feel like they were written for my company. You want to do something similar to that. Look at all the expiring contracts that are in your world and then whittle them down to the 20 best ones. Step 2, reach out to the government key stakeholders. These are program office personnel, like obviously the people doing the work or the core, and then the acquisition related people. So the core, the contract specialist, and the contract officer, and then the small business specialist expressing interest. Hey, I really want to go after this. I know it was set aside sole source last time. Can it be 8A competitive so at least we can compete? That kind of stuff you can do. So step 2 is reach out to the government key stakeholders. And step 3 is reach out to the incumbent. When you find these expiring contracts, you can reach out to the incumbent first, just to see if you can have a conversation with them and build a little relationship. This is how we do sales, right? And then you see if there's some synergy. And then you can mention, look, I'm going after the contract. That 8A expiring contracts product I told you I built, I went in there, and one of the things I tell my customers is here's the 8A companies that are no longer small for the NAICS code that this expiring contract was originally awarded on. Or here's the 8A companies, the incumbents, that are graduated out of 8A, but they have this contract. So they can keep it until the contract expires, but they can't recompete. Those are ideal incumbents to go talk to and see if you can't team up, and maybe you prime and they sub, and maybe they can get you introduced right to the contracting officer. And a minute ago, I said try to push it to 8A competitive. Well, at that case, you try to just keep it sole source with the incumbent if you can do that. And so you want to be able to do those 3 steps when you find the expiring contracts. Identify a slam dunk, the slam dunk expiring contracts. Second thing is reach out to the government key stakeholders. And then the third thing is reach out to the incumbent. This is what you do at the very beginning of identifying expiring contracts that you think are really good fits for your company. Okay, so here's what I want you to remember from today's training. First off, recompetes give you a huge head start. If you look out, not just in 2026 and 2027, but if you're a $5 million, $10 million, $20 million company, you should be looking at in 28 as well. And looking at those expiring contracts and go, which ones did I wish I won? And bring them into your pipeline. You don't have to spend as much time, but you begin to understand, where's my 28 and 27 revenue coming from? That sales activity begins today. So that's what I mean by recompetes, or these expiring contracts are going to give you a huge head start. The second thing is find those slam dunks. And then the third thing I want you to remember is you have to start engaging with the people involved with those expiring contracts, both on the incumbent and the government side. When you do that, you really increase the number of opportunities you can have in your pipeline, because you're not dependent on SAM or a forecast that isn't overly populated, right? You can have an increase in the number, and you can start having confidence that you're looking at the opportunities that really fit for your company. And you're not just choosing from 58 opportunities trying to make one of them work, but you're choosing from 4,497 saying, where are the best ones? I'm going to go after those. Okay. Hey, one thing I want to just let you know, I was talking about the 8A expiring contracts product. If that's something you're interested in, finding that information, I have that contact information. I have the competitive analysis on the incumbents. I put this together. You can find that at govconchamber.com/8A expiring contracts. In fact, if you want to stick around, I will put it right here on the website. But otherwise, we're done for the training. I hope you found it valuable. If you did, put 8A rocks in the chat as you head out. There you go. That's where I put it. Took me a minute to get it there.